Hello, and welcome to Hope for Felons podcast, where we discuss felons and everything in between. Your host for this show is Douglas Van Vliet. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, and welcome back to Hope for Felons podcast. It's so good to have you on the show today as we discuss felons and everything in between. Today we're going to be taking a little bit of look at what we was talking about on the last podcast. So what I will do is I will recap that as well, so that way you won't have to go back and listen to the other podcasts. What we are going to do today is we're going to discuss in depth about the halfway house and what is going on right now with the halfway house. A lot of people are saying, oh my goodness, are they changing anything? Well, this is what they're doing, and nobody likes it, but it's just the way that it is. When the pandemic started, then most of the halfway houses was allowing the offenders to actually go home. And what they would do is, if you didn't have transportation, they would still allow you to go home, but you would have to call in on Zoom or a video chat, so that way they could see you. That's what they wanted to do, is be able to see you and communicate with you. But now the B.O.P says no, you can't do that. They have to physically come to your location. So now it's no. You have to go. You have to have transportation to get back and forth, or they will not let you go. So you have to really think about that, because in all reality, we have to, it's our job, since we provide services, to notify y'all that there is changes amongst the B.O.P. My understanding is they had a big meeting. The B.O.P. had a big meeting with all the halfway houses, and basically they said, well, this is the way it's got to be. So, when they say this is the way you got to do it, then they have no choice but to do what they say. So, if your loved one does not have transportation, then you can expect them now, they are going to have to stay at the halfway house until, their time at the halfway house is up. Now, that's not to say if they do have family members that can actually take them back and forth, then that's still sufficient. They just need to know that, yes, this individual can come back to the halfway house, and that way they can give a urinalysis to make sure that they're clean, they ain't doing drugs or nothing like that. Because that's a big issue, because somebody that's just coming out of prison, I've actually seen guys at the halfway house that come in so drunk, oh my goodness, it was horrible. And so I mean, some people just does not use common sense and do the right thing, and in the end, everybody has to pay for it. I've heard of people actually doing all kinds of stuff at the halfway house, and it's crazy. Why put yourself through that risk of going back to prison? I just don't understand it. I mean, it's beyond me. But anyway, My thing is, I just wanted to make sure that y'all was aware that they did change their policies and that they're really getting strict now on people that's coming to the halfway house. And I don't know if this is going to last a long time, but I think the biggest reason that they allowed that anyway is because of the pandemic. And now that we're in what they call an endemic, then 9 times out of 10, you know, things is actually going to start changing. And I also wanted to say that they're also so crowded now because they have let so many people out. And, you know, if the problem is, if you and a lot of other people is able to go home, then it actually makes more room for new people coming in. But if you do not have all them people going back home, then of course you're going to have an issue, because, you know, there's not going to be that many openings as there was before. So now we have to take a look at that, you know, because it's been a big issue for a while, and for real, it's always been an issue, but it seems like more now. I don't know if there's just so many people that's being released right now, and there's just not enough room, you know, to house these people. But I would assume that it will be different in every area that you go to. You know, like, say for instance, North Carolina might be full, but Ohio may not have hardly nobody. So basically, I think it's just, you know, the location of where you're going. But I also want to say that it's very important for every individual that gets out of the penitentiary or, you know, prison, that, you know, the mindset is right. And that is one of the biggest things. And a lot of people, to be honest with you, they don't know what to expect. If a person has been in there for 15 or 16 years, you know, you wonder, well, what is going on with that person? You know, can I trust them? A lot of stuff goes through a family member or friend's mind, especially if you're letting them stay with you. You know, a lot of stuff like that comes up all the time. Well, how should I handle this person since you know, they have been away for so long, and we have not really communicated as much as we would like to have. So what do you do in a case like that? And I'm like, you know, basically what you have to do is you have to play it by ear. You have to see what mindset that person has when they get out. Because every person has their own way and their own mindset if they're going to do the right thing or they're not going to do the right thing. But I would encourage the family members and friends that if your loved one is getting out within the next 6 months, then I believe you should do everything in your power to try to go visit them so you can actually get more acquainted with this person, because they've been behind the fence for so many years, and you know, you don't know what to expect, and they probably feel the same way. So I mean, I tell everybody that it's very important that last 6 months to communicate and to visit as much as possible. Another thing a lot of people ask me about is working. Now, I know of a good friend of mine that actually was hired by a company before he was released from prison, which I think is so fabulous that the guy was actually able to hire him, and he is doing great. He's doing great. But that's just the thing, while you're at the halfway house, if you was hired for a job before you're released, then 9 times out of 10 they will let you work because they want you to work. And that's what it's all about, is trying to get reacclimated back into the community so you can try to start saving money, and so you can be a productive citizen. And that's what they want. That's what the halfway house wants as well. Another thing I want to say, as far as people that work and you're at the halfway house, one of the big problems are that they do take a certain amount of your check. Every paycheck, they take so much out. And the reason they do that is so that way they can be able to, actually, I think they send it back to the B.O.P. from what I understand, because all that money is actually sent to them, and then in return they send them a check back for however much it costs you to be at the halfway house, or that individual to be at the halfway house. Now, one of the things you can do, and they will advise you, that if you are trying to save up a certain amount of money, prior to you going, they want you to send a letter to the B.O.P., which they actually have you write the letter, and then I think they fax it to the B.O.P. And when you write the letter, you can request that they waive, all the money, and I think you can get it down to maybe 5% or something like that. Because I think the regular percentage is like 25%, but you can get it cut way back, especially if you're trying to save to get a car or whatnot. You can actually get them to waive that, so you would have more money to be able to do the stuff that you need to do. Another thing I want to talk about is cell phones. Now, every halfway house is different, but from what my understanding is now, because I deal with a lot of halfway houses, because that's what we do here, is work with halfway houses, probation officers, and individuals. We do it all. But one of the biggest things that we had found out, that most halfway houses will not let you have an Apple phone, an iPhone. They will not allow that, but they will allow you to have an Android phone or a flip phone. Also, when you, I think I've actually brought this up a few times, when getting your loved one a phone, especially when it comes to a smartphone, depending on what charge your family member or friend has, sometimes will depend on whether or not that they would let them have a smartphone. Now, I do know that once you're on probation with certain crimes, they make you pay to have what they call a monitoring software installed on the phone, so that way they can monitor everything that you do. And that's actually costly. It really is. It runs, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's $30 installation fee for a phone, and then of course it is $35 a month, and it's I think $50 installation fee for the computer, but it's still the $35 a month. So basically, if you have a phone and a computer, it's going to cost you $70 a month. And that's actually expensive, if you ask me. That's why we are working, since I did take computer programming, one of the things I wanted to do, I wanted to start next year, because I have so much stuff going on now. But next year, I want to be able to design a software package and be able to open up a service where we monitor, people's phones and computers. And the reason that I really want to do it is because the company that does it now, boy, they are a price gouger. I mean, because a person just getting out of prison, they don't have the kind of money to just throw away, not for monitoring software, not to, be monitored. So, having to pay $35 a month on top of your monthly bill for your phone, it's going to be pretty pricey for someone just getting out of prison. Now, I did want to mention, I don't know if anybody is aware, but I recommend people that's coming out of prison with their family member wants to get them a phone. The best thing you can do is get them a Walmart Family Mobile account, and you can simply pick up one of them phones you can pick up at Walmart, and then get an activation card, and then you can activate it, get it all ready, and then you tell them, look, it's your responsibility to get another card, or when you go to the halfway house, they usually send you to the bank so you can go ahead and open up a banking account, because they want you to have a banking account. So once you get your their banking account established, then they can actually put their phone so it's drafted out of their account every month, which is a great idea. But the reason that I stress that, because it is way cheaper, because I pay like $27 a month, and you get unlimited talk, text, and data. Now, there is a kicker on it, because some of the plans, you do have 2 gigabytes of data, but after you use that 2 gigabytes of data, then it actually starts slowing down. It starts throttling. But at least, really, you do get that unlimited talk and text and data, but you just slow down after 2 gigabytes. So, but it does slow down tremendously, but I'm just throwing that out there that that would actually be one of the best ways where you could actually, you can get it activated, and then you basically hand it over to them, and none of your information will be attached to it. So a lot of people would rather go that route than to try to open up, an account and then, sign a contract and all that stuff. You know, with this, you don't have to sign no contract or nothing. And if you have a phone that you already have and you just want a SIM card, then you can just go to Walmart, walmart.com, and like me, what I did was I bought 5 of them, 5 SIM cards. I bought 5 SIM cards because it seemed like everybody was needing a Walmart Family Mobile SIM card, because I push it here with all of our friends and family, because it's so much of a better deal than what you're going to get anywhere. I mean, don't get me wrong. Now, my buddy, he sells Spectrum cell phones, but they have a $14 plan, which you get 2 gigabytes of data, but then after that, it's done and over with. It don't throttle down or nothing, it just quits. And then for $29 a month, but you have to have 2 lines in order to get it for $29. So that's why I say it's a lot better to go with Walmart Family Mobile, because T-Mobile, all these other companies, you're going to really pay a whole lot of money, like $60 a month. But a person that's just getting out of prison, I think, personally, Walmart Family Mobile is the best way to go, because most of what they're going to do anyway to start with is going to be calling for work and, you know, trying to do that kind of thing, and also communicating with the halfway house, because you do have to communicate with the halfway house. Like if you go to the store or what, you get permission to go somewhere, well, you're supposed to call them when you get there, and you're supposed to call them when you get back. So there is a lot of communication that has to be going on, so they really need a cell phone for that. I also wanted to say that most of these halfway houses, if you're thinking that the person that's coming out of prison will be able to use the Wi-Fi at the halfway house, they don't have a Wi-Fi at the halfway house. None of the halfway houses that I'm aware of let any of the occupants use their Wi-Fi. So, saying that, you know, they will be using a lot of data, especially if they like to watch movies. Then they may be on there watching movies and stuff, and nobody's going to be able to, you know, get on there or do anything unless they actually have data available. So I do know that even filling out applications, which is hard to do it on a phone, but I've seen a lot of people fill out applications with their phone, and a lot of people say, well, what kind of phone should I get? Well, I will do a rundown here in just 1 second. Let's see here. One of the things that I have to say is you don't need, well, it depends. I'm going to say this because there's 2 different types of phones for 2 different types of individuals. If you fall under an internet crime, whether it be pornography, whether it be that you've done something illegal over the phone, then more than likely anything that you've done over the phone, well, over the internet, I should say, or phone, they want your device to be monitored. So if you fall under the category where you will have to pay for the monitoring software that I spoke about earlier, then you're going to have to get a phone that has at least 10 gigabytes of RAM. Not storage space, RAM. So if you have any questions about phones or anything like that, just give me a call. Just give me a call and I will actually walk you through it, and I will send you a link of phones that I feel that work great for that type of software. And of course, if you fall under a person that would not have their phone monitored, then you can just get whatever you want. But I would not recommend an iPhone, because a lot of probation officers does not want anyone to have an iPhone. You have to have an Android. I know, sorry, iPhone users, you're probably going to have to wait until you get off probation, because they're really strict on that, and they really fuss a lot about that, because there must be something in the iPhones that they're not able to monitor as good. So you need to take that into consideration. Well, I'm going to wrap up for today, but I did want to give you that information, and then if you need any information, the number and address, email, everything will be given right after the end of the podcast. So thank y'all for tuning in, and God bless you, and there is hope for a felon.